evening. Welcome to QUT Web News.
Good evening.
It's budget night. Wayne Swan will officially release his fifth federal budget. In a determined bid to return a surplus, some sectors are bracing for deep cuts, but there's expected to be some good news for low to middle income earners.
The nation's leading political journalists spent today in lockup, poring over the 2012-13 federal budget. The government needs to win over voters and are promising to ease financial pressure on families earning an average income. To help pay for that, they're slashing the defence budget and making some cuts to welfare to return a modest surplus of $1.5 billion.
First and foremost, this is a Labor budget. This budget is one that I'm extremely proud of.
With Labor set to deliver a surplus, opposition leader Tony Abbott claims it doesn't add up.
This is a cooked books surplus based on fiddle figures.
With no formal announcement until later tonight, many people still aren't sure what to expect from this year's budget. But some sectors already know what's on the cards. Budget leaks suggest one of the biggest winners could be the aged care sector. Aged Care Queensland is well aware of a pending boost in funding. The government announced 2 weeks ago they would dedicate over $500 million to help the elderly.
We know that most older Australians prefer to receive care in their own home, whether it's the home they've always lived in or perhaps it's a smaller home that they move to, a retirement village, some form of seniors housing. Older Australians do seek at-home care.
Nick Ryan says some money has been redirected from residential care into community care. Fast-tracking the new National Disability Insurance Scheme will also mean more money for the aged care sector.
We applaud the NDIS. We think it's excellent. Of course, as those people, older Australians with a disability, move into the aged care system, that funding will come with them.
He says in the future, demand for residential care will continue to rise, and more funding is always needed. Either way, it's a make-or-break budget for the Gillard government. Emily Gramens, QUT News.
Meantime, Queensland businesses are feeling the effects of the tough economy. Many are struggling to keep their doors open after experiencing record lows.
An uncertain financial future continues to worry Queensland business owners. Experts say a hangover from the GFC and interest rate hikes are hurting.
Housing prices in Australia, relatively the highest in the Western world, and housing affordability is a major issue, particularly when you couple that with the level of interest rates that apply in Australia.
The mining boom has overshadowed many of the struggles experienced by smaller companies. Queensland's construction industry is one of the hardest hit. 5 years ago, tradies would have flocked to these streets in a housing construction boom. But today's almost deserted streets tell a different story.
The construction sector and housing sector are particularly weak.
Smaller family-owned companies that have survived for generations, such as Sharp Plywood, haven't escaped the hardship.
Our business has reduced considerably. We're much down on production to what we were 2 or 3 years ago now.
As Queensland's construction industry enters its 23rd month in decline with no signs of improving, many businesses are being forced to adapt or face a similar future. Sharp Plywood is already taking appropriate action to ensure its business survives.
There's always a light at the tunnel. We've changed a lot of things and we're working on smaller staff and doing things smarter, and we're looking for different markets.
Danica Ferguson, QUT News.
In medical news, Australian researchers have discovered a possible vaccine for the deadly meningococcal. The new vaccine appears to offer complete protection against the most common and dangerous strain of the disease.
The Australian-led trial tested the vaccine on people aged between 12 and 18, and the results are promising.
It's very exciting because we have an effective vaccine for type C meningococcus, but unfortunately most of the cases that we see in Australia now, over 80%, are due to meningococcal B.
The vaccine for meningococcal C has been offered to children since 2003, but researchers have had trouble developing a safe option for the more common B strain.
I think this will give a lot of parents peace of mind.
Meningococcal B can be transmitted through saliva and close contact with an infected person. 1 in 10 infections is fatal. 22-month-old Zach Johnson had to have part of his leg amputated after he contracted the disease. His mum says a vaccine couldn't come soon enough.
If they get the cure or the vaccine for any type of meningococcal will be unreal.
Type B is by far the most prevalent form of the disease, responsible for 80% of all Australian cases. Professor Nissen says an all-ages vaccine is still 5 years away. Parents are urged to watch out for symptoms of the disease.
If it just doesn't seem right, just take them straight to the doctors. Every second counts.
The warning comes as we enter winter, the peak time for meningococcal infections. Patrick Wright, QUT News.
Ticket mania has taken over Brisbane and Australia as millions of us take a punt at tonight's giant Oz Lotto jackpot. Up for grabs, a $70 million jackpot, the second biggest in Lotto history.
Around half of Australian adults are expected to purchase a ticket in tonight's Oz Lotto draw. Quick picks are the most popular entry, generating more than 60% of all ticket sales. All week, news agencies have been in a spin, selling 3 to 4 times more Lotto tickets than usual.
Well, you've got to have a ticket. Well, you've got to be in it to win it. So that's all I can say. We know people that have bought one single game, costs a little $1.10, and they won $10 million. So anything's possible.
Typically, an Oz Lotto prize is won by between 1 and 3 people. If someone takes out the entire prize pool on offer, they will instantly become the biggest lottery winner in Australia.
Unlike American lotteries and other international lottery organisations, none of our prizes are taxed. No Australian prizes are ever taxed. So if you win $70 million, that's all yours to keep.
But you'd have to be very lucky. The odds are astronomical.
There's nothing at all you can do to make it more likely you'll win. Every game, no matter how you pick the numbers, one chance in 45 million.
Many punters already have plans for what they'll do if they win.
Yeah, I'll take my time and think about it, but certainly houses and cars and holidays, the usual things.
That's crazy. 70 million, you'd be set. You wouldn't need to do anything else.
If no one wins the big one tonight, next week the prize jackpot's to more than $100 million. Wouldn't that be nice? Simone Peterson, QUT News.
Bombshell news out of the Broncos camp today. After 45 tests for Australia, 30 Origin games for Queensland, star forward Petero Civoniceva says 2012 will be his last Rugby League season. But the big man is still keen to play one last Origin for the Maroons.
Petero took it easy today at the Broncos training session, just hours after he announced his retirement from the NRL. It's obvious there are no hard feelings. The forward says his decision to bid farewell has been hanging over his head for a long time. Now is the right time to go, especially with a club full of so many bright young stars.
You'd like to think you could keep going on forever, but I think the time is right for me to step into the next stage of my life.
Broncos Chief Executive Paul White says Petero will leave behind a lasting and unique legacy.
Petero is revered in our game, revered for what he does on the field, but more importantly for the way he carries himself off the field.
The star Bronco will always have a place at the Brisbane club.
Petero's reputation in our game and also in the community is a wonderful asset, and we'll certainly look to assure our members and our fans that Petero will have an ongoing role within the club.
Petero says even though he will be saying goodbye to the Broncos this year, he still has the passion and the drive for one more Origin series. He says if he's selected, he will be ready to go.
Yeah, I've put my hand up for it. Again, all I can do is concentrate on my own form and let Origin selection be the job of the selectors.
Petero's last home and away game will be against the Penrith Panthers, the club he led for 3 years before returning to the Broncos. Jane Shon, QUT News.
Time to look at the weather. It's been another beautiful day outside with a light breeze for Queensland's capital. Temperatures in the southeast today, Ipswich started off with a cool low at 5 degrees before hitting a top of 25. Brisbane also got to 25 degrees. It was 23 on the sunny coast, while the Gold Coast had a top of 24. Around the nation tomorrow, and Sydney will reach 25. A cold start for Canberra, just 4 overnight. Melbourne and Adelaide will hit tops of 21. 20 for Hobart, Darwin staying fine and warm up to 31 degrees tomorrow. The forecast for Queensland and the Sunshine State is definitely living up to its name. It will remain fine and sunny in most of the regional cities. Up north, Cairns and Townsville will reach a top of 29 degrees, Mount Isa 31. A few clouds for Mackay with a top of 27. Bundaberg also 27. The outlook for Brisbane over the next 3 days. More clear skies, reaching a top of 26 degrees, both tomorrow and Thursday. Friday will see a few clouds, but the temps will be in the mid-20s. That brings you up to date with the weather.
And that's all the news we have for now.
We'll be back tomorrow with more QUT News. Goodbye.
Goodbye.